I want you to have some time in your life where you're completely unreachable. Completely disconnected, completely unreachable. And it's hard, right? I'm gonna encourage you that it's okay if you don't Google the answer to that trivia question, right? It's okay. It's okay if you don't know the answer all the time. It's okay if you don't know if somebody's trying to get a hold of you. Set some time to be unreachable. And God actually gave us a prescription for this. In the Old Testament, God commands his people, he gives them a command to set aside one day out of 7 for something he calls the Sabbath. And the Sabbath was a day when the people of Israel were commanded to do no work, add no value, do nothing at all that will improve their standing. Nothing, no work, completely disconnect from working. Now, I think one of the reasons God did this was to remind people, you're not the center of the universe. You're not. You can take a day off of work, and guess what? The crops are going to grow just fine. The rain's going to fall. The sun's going to shine. The earth's going to turn, even though they thought it was flat back then, but the earth's going to turn, right? Everything's going to be just fine. Don't worry about it. It's totally fine. I'm in control. You're not in control.
Rest can be sleep. It can be just something different you do that's unusual. This is part of the reason why we do camps around here. Man camp, couples camp, woman camp. Couples camp is happening next weekend. But our camps, if you go to them, you might sleep less than you normally do because you're not used to sleeping in a tent perhaps. But we find over and over and over again, people come back restored, refreshed. Why? Because you're doing something you don't normally do. Rest doesn't always mean sleep. Rest doesn't always mean staring at Netflix. It means you do something different that creates different patterns in you and breaks you out of your ruts. And when you're camping, you're doing, thinking, talking things you never talk about.
And wherever you find slavery, there's a distinct process by which people make others slaves. First thing they do is they rob them of their identity. The second thing they do is they rob them of their community. They isolate them. And the third thing they do is make them believe that the only value they provide in the world, the only worth they have is based on what they do, not on who they are. That's how slavery works. Now, the sad thing is, when you and I look at our calendars, by that definition, oftentimes we are slaves to time. We're slaves because we're working for an identity. We're trying to prove something, and so we're workaholics, or we're trying to achieve the next thing. Or we're slaves and we don't put any margin in our time because we got to keep up this Instagram, Snapchat life that makes it look like we're having a great life better than everybody else's life, whether it's accumulation or achievement, whether we're running away from something or trying to strain to get something. Oftentimes, you and I can be slaves to time. And the question that only you can answer for yourself is, are you mastering your time? Or is time mastering you?
At my core wiring, I am a creator, maker, builder. That's what I love to do. When I'm doing that, it fills me with life and with energy. And so one night, I made a decision in favor of margin. We needed some shelves, and I decided I'd try to build them. And they weren't terrible. I mean, they weren't great, but they weren't terrible. And so I made more stuff. And now I have this amazing recharging hobby called building furniture in my basement. It's awesome. Look, making margin is not this passive, it's not this. It's not, what was that? That doesn't work for me. I get distracted way too easily. It's active. You know, when my wife is running, those are her best times of connecting to God and being filled by God. When she's on the move, when I'm in my basement working on furniture stuff, I connect to God in that because I'm in a lane that He's made me for, and I'm making a step towards Him. You know, it doesn't have to be this boring thing. Margin can be an exciting, enjoyable experience for you. If you make margin, you will enjoy life. You'll have a better life.
Margin is when you read a book, you need some white space. You need some white space around your book to be able to take notes or do whatever you do. It's just, you know, it's like, okay, I can breathe. If there was no margin on the book, you would stress out every time you read the book. It would just freak you out, be very, very uncomfortable. This is what it's like in our lives in America. America has been taken from us. It's stolen from us. We're ground down. Everyone's given us an agenda. Everyone's given us more stuff we need to be doing, more stuff we need to be buying, more stuff we need to be involving our lives, and we have zero margin because all of America is about taking from us. This was referred to really well in a statement the first week that Kyle Ransom gave. I think it's worth looking at again. He talked about how Netflix, the CEO of Netflix, was on a third quarter conference call with investors, and some of the investors were saying, hey, Amazon Prime is starting to really increase. Is that going to cut into your profits and decrease our investment? What's that looking like? And Reed Hastings, the CEO of Netflix, said this. He said, well, when you watch a show from Netflix and you get addicted to it, you stay up late at night. What we're competing with sleep on the margin. And so it's a very large pool of time. What's he saying here? He's saying, no, man, Amazon isn't our competitor. Our competitor is our people who are sleeping too much. That's what he's saying. So our strategy is we get better shows and they lose another hour of sleep. Do you understand? They're saying we're so stupid and idiotic, we can't even control ourselves, and we will keep binging and we'll cut out sleep. We say, no, they got plenty of margin. Every American has plenty. It's called sleep. We're just going to keep cutting into that. That's how bad it has gotten for us.
Jesus was never hurried. And so if we're trying to have Jesus show up in our hurried life, I'm sorry. He is waiting for you to slow down. He is waiting for you to come to him and let him give you rest. I believe some of you in here, God wants to literally give you dreams. I'm not talking metaphorically. I'm saying if you would sleep long enough, God will give you things in your dreams that provide perspective and clarity for things you've been asking about for years. Some of you, you're not sleeping long enough to get the dreams God wants to give you. For others of you, you're wondering why. You've been praying, you've been reading the Bible, but I can't seem to get clarity on this big decision I need to make. But if I were to look at your calendar, and if you honestly assess your calendar, there's not even 10 minutes for God to speak to you in your life, in your week. Man, if you would create that space in 10 minutes a day, God can give you 10 years worth of vision. He can give you 10 years worth of peace. He can give you 10 years worth of direction.